This will be the third time in a row we are going to touch on Gamuda. What new pattern this time? Hi, I'm Frankie. Welcome back to my fuck show. I tell you, it's so obvious that the general election is getting so much nearer than you could imagine when construction companies continuously get the limelight in the stock market. Today, I want to talk about a new government plan that could potentially benefit Gamuda for the third time in a row. December 2021. A nightmare for many residents living in Klang and Shah Alam. Continuous heavy rain saw several housing areas in those places to be inundated. Flood water started rising in the Shah Alam area and was said to have entered several houses in Taman Sri Muda, Kota Kemuning, and even on the Kesas highway towards Klang. This major flood eventually claimed about 50 lives. On the positive side, the government managed to prove to everyone the spirit of Keluarga Malaysia by standing at the sideline watching. Just watching. While the rakyat, regardless of race and colour, can be united in the face of common hardships. It witnessed Malaysians from all walks of life coming together to lend a helping hand to the victims. After everything is settled, it's time for the hero to show up. Soon after the disaster, Shah Alam Mayor Datuk Zamani Ahmad Mansor launched a 150 million ringgit 3-year Shah Alam Sustainable Urban Drainage Master Plan to mitigate the flood issues in his jurisdiction. I can't help but to think, when kids play Sim City, they know that they need to upgrade the infrastructure and utilities when the population of their vicinity increases. Don't know why the big doubt in real life didn't do anything when Shah Alam has been developed into one of the major cities within Klang Valley. Anyways, the point I want to make is that the so-called master plan is not a sustainable fix to the problem. At the rate that the city is growing, by the time the 150 million ringgit is fully spent, fresh new funds might be needed to kickstart a new round of upgrades. It would be a never-ending cycle. Or maybe that's what they want. This is when people start talking about other possible solutions to solve the flood problem once and for all. One thing that makes us proud as Malaysians is the Smart Tunnel, the longest stormwater drainage tunnel in Southeast Asia. While Shah Alam experienced the worst flood ever, in KL, the Smart Tunnel diverted 5 million cubic meter of rainwater away from the city, saving it from a disaster. So who built the Smart Tunnel? And what does the company have to do with the recent flooding in Selangor? That company is Gamuda. Or should I say MMC Gamuda. Building a tunnel is no easy job, especially when there are buildings on the ground surface. Imagine some Chekai company digging a tunnel and all of a sudden the buildings on ground surface collapse because the digging affected the foundation of the building structure above. It requires high-tech machineries, top-notch engineers, and a wealth of experience to carry out the job properly. Malaysia first started getting serious about tunneling when we built the MRT. Since the alignment cut across super dense and highly populated areas, there was no much space to build tracks above ground. The solution was to go underground. To do this, giant tunnel boring machines, or TBMs, were brought to Kuala Lumpur by MMC Gamuda and set to work. These machines don't just burrow through rocks, okay? As the huge drills crunches forward, the back end constructs the tough tunnel frame with high-strength concrete. Such state-of-the-art machinery confirm not cheap lah. But MMC Gamuda knew they were able to make good money in the future, since the development of MRT won't stop with just 1 or 2 lines. And true enough, with such a valuable asset in hand, it allowed MMC Gamuda to explore other tunneling opportunities other than continuously winning MRT jobs, and created the longest stormwater drainage tunnel in Southeast Asia. With that vast amount of real-life experience, MMC Gamuda is the tunneling expert at the global level. And with the wonderful success of the Smart Tunnel, why not build one in Shah Alam too? And so, they submitted a proposal to the government to see if they get lucky. Of course, they won't be that lucky. 7 other companies have put in separate proposals to the government for a flood mitigation project in Klang Valley worth between 5 to 15 billion ringgit. These 8 proposals that were sent in directly to the PM's office include some big names in construction industry. We have talked much about MMC Gamuda's capability in this game, but that doesn't mean that they don't have competition. IGM was once involved in the Pahang Selangor Raw Water Transfer Tunnel project, which involved the construction of 3 tunnels measuring 44.6 km. MRCB also has tunneling experience. It is the main contractor for the LRT3 project, which will involve 2.2 km of tunneling works. On top of that, MRCB also has an environment-related business that undertakes flood and erosion mitigations of river and coastal areas. Since this is a Selangor problem, the state also wants to get involved. There's a chance that whoever wins the contract, the company would have to partner with Perangsang Selangor Berhad, a unit of Selangor state-controlled entity to carry out the necessary jobs. Last week, we talked about Amanat Lebuh Raya Rakyat acquiring highway concession as from Gamuda and Litrac for a sum of 5.4 billion ringgit. At the equity level, the effective ownership of Gamuda in the highway concessions air could be worth around 2.3 billion ringgit. To share some perspective, that amount of money could increase Gamuda's cash position by 63% to 6 billion ringgit. This cash will provide Gamuda with extra muscles to finance future infrastructure projects such as the flood mitigation proposal for Shah Alam. Companies bidding for jobs is one thing. That's what they do to survive and make money for their shareholders. The bigger problem lies with the government. Under the 12th Malaysian Plan, the government set aside 1 billion ringgit for disaster mitigation projects, which means to say the government has weighed the costs and benefits and the possibility of disaster happening in Malaysia to derive this figure, 1 billion ringgit. Just half a year after that, in March 2022, the government decided to add additional 15 billion ringgit for flood mitigation projects between 2023 to 2030. How? Where is the money coming from? Money grows on tree, meh? But think about it. That additional 15 billion ringgit makes a lot of sense, lah. Remember earlier I mentioned there are 8 companies putting in proposals worth between 5 to 15 billion? Based on the case study of the construction of MRT and Smart Tunnel, if a Smart 2 was to build in Shah Alam, it will more or less take around 5 years to complete. And with some delays given the government need to make sure they win the upcoming general election first, 2030 seems like a reasonable timeline. At this point, I don't care how the government plans things and where they are going to get that kind of huge funding to kickstart the project. For that, I will give them my answer in the upcoming GE15. As an investor, the thing that makes me excited is the magic number 15. Up to 15 billion ringgit for this flood mitigation proposal. It can be as great as each of the 8 companies getting an average of 2 billion ringgit contract, and everyone is a winner. And if it's a job that the winner takes all, the shareholders of the winning construction company would be laughing going to the bank, man. The problem I have with this topic is how the 15 billion ringgit proposal is derived. I mean, 10 km Smart Tunnel was priced at 2 billion ringgit in the past. It is said that if there will be a Smart 2 in Shah Alam, it would span across 22 km in length. Fine. Let's double that cost to pay for the extra length for the new tunnel. Plus, double that figure again to take into account inflation costs. 8 billion ringgit only lah. How to account for the remaining half? To be fair, Gamuda also proposed river improvement works that will increase the capacity of Klang River by 10%. When IGM built Kuantan Port, which involved dredging to increase the depth of the harbour basin, it only cost 3 billion ringgit. That's one complete set of full functional port. Maybe I'm not an expert in construction, so I'm still unable to wrap my head around the fact that increasing a river's capacity by 10% can cost that much money. I mean, come on man, it's just a river, not even an ocean. That's all we have for today. #FUCK.